Okay, so we will start from the point where Musa alayhi salam, one night when most of the people are sleeping, decides to go around the city. He probably might have done that in the past as well, but this one particular night, he enters the city and he notices that one man from the children of Israel, remember the children of Israel means the descendants of Yaqub alayhi salam. And Yaqub alayhi salam's another name was Israel, which in English we say Israel. And he had 12 sons. From each one of his sons, there was a tribe. So all 12 tribes are together called children of Israel, or Banu Israel, or Bani Israel, or children of Israel. All of these mean the same thing, the descendants of the Yaqub alayhi salam, and Musa alayhi salam was among them, the descendants. So you could clearly see the Musa alayhi salam features, color, skin color, whatever, from the people of Fir'aun. You could easily see. The Musa alayhi salam saw one of the man who was an Israelite from the children of Israel to be fighting with one of the man from the Fir'aun's royal family. And in that fight, the Israelite looked at Musa alayhi salam and he could tell right away that Musa alayhi salam looked like him far more than he would look like from the royals from Fir'aun's family. And he called Musa alayhi salam for help. And at that time, since Israelites were slaves and Fir'aun and his people were extremely harsh on them, Musa alayhi salam was very quick to make a judgment call. And he probably rushed to the situation thinking that the Israelite is in trouble. So at that point, to put an end to the fight, he started moving them away from each other. And in that process, he punched the guy who was from the family of Fir'aun. But unfortunately, with that punch, the man died. And the big issue happened at that time that somebody, if dies from the family of Fir'aun, means that the punishment would be death. That's it. That was their law. So Musa alayhi salam, that was by mistake. He ran away and he hid because he didn't want anybody to know about this until he could clear himself. And then the next night, he came out and he saw the same Israelite fighting with another man. And he's like, what's wrong with you? Why do you keep fighting with different people every night? Looks like you are a man who looks for trouble. And at that time, the person from the family of Fir'aun, a different guy from the family of Fir'aun that this Israelite was fighting with, he was hearing the conversation because he was part of that. And he's like, Musa, are you the guy who helped him last night? Because from my conversation, I could tell. And as a result, you killed one of the family members of Fir'aun? And Musa alayhi salam at that time didn't say anything, but put an end to the fight. And this guy reported back to the Fir'aun, the guy who was from the family of Fir'aun, reported back to the Fir'aun and said, you know, our family member who died last night in a fight, he was killed by Musa because all the soldiers were roaming around the city looking for the guy who killed him. So now at that time, the court ordered that Musa alayhi salam should be brought back and be punished. When the court order was released, at that time, a man who used to work in the Fir'aun's court, he knew where Musa alayhi salam was. So he rushed to Musa alayhi salam and he said to Musa alayhi salam, run away because the guards are coming to get you and they will punish you. And we know that you are innocent in a way that you didn't mean to do any of that. What happened? So Musa, run away right now. There is no time to waste. So Musa alayhi salam at that time left Egypt. And remember, in those times, Africa and Asia were connected. They were connected even just recently. We had to build a Suez Canal so that we could transport the ships to the Europe much faster. So a canal was built to cause a split between Asia and Africa. At that time, the canal was not in place, so you could easily walk from Africa to Asia. And that's what Musa alayhi salam did. He went for 8 nights. He kept traveling till he entered Asia. And he entered a place called Madian. In Madian, we also learn about Madian before Musa alayhi salam, at the time of Shu'aib alayhi salam. This was the time when Musa alayhi salam entered Madian, and this was outside the city that he noticed a bunch of people fighting over water and rushing to get the water. There was one well and a lot of men with a lot of sheep and goat. And he noticed that 2 women are standing on one side, not doing anything. He approached the woman and said, "Why are you girls with all your sheep and goats standing in one corner, and all these men are rushing to get the water? What's going on?" And they said, "Well, since we are women and we cannot get in between them because they're not gentle. So what we do is we wait till everybody is done, and whatever water is left over in the buckets in which they used to fetch the water out of the well, we then use that much water, and that's about it." Musa alayhi salam said, "That's not fair." So Musa alayhi salam stepped forward and started fetching water for these 2 girls. And he fetched enough so that whatever their need was. And these 2 girls then took the water back home. And their father was very surprised. And he said, "You girls are very early today. You usually come back much later." And they were like, there was this one strong man that we noticed that helped us today, and we were able to fetch the water in a timely manner. And nobody was there to stop us because he was doing the job for us. So we got early. We got done early. And on top of that, we also overheard him making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that, "Oh Allah, help me. Looks like he's a stranger. He doesn't know anybody in town. So Dad, can we do something about it?" So the dad said to one of the daughters, "Go and call this man, Musa." They don't know the name yet. So one of the daughters goes to Musa alayhi salam and said, "My dad is calling you and you must come with me." So Musa alayhi salam goes to the house, and Shu'aib alayhi salam, or the father, I should say, the father of the 2 girls, he basically said to Musa alayhi salam, "I have one condition for you to work for me, rather 2. First condition is you have to marry one of my 2 daughters. The second condition is that you will work for me for at least 8 years. And if you could make it a 10-year thing, I'll be so nice. I'll be obliged. I'll be so nice of you to do that." But Musa alayhi salam agreed to work for him for 10 years. So he spent 10 years in Madian. He married one of his daughters, and he spent 10 years. What was he doing? He was doing everything that needed to be done in that household like a son. He would take care of the sheep, the goat, because in those times, sheep and cattle and other things, that was your money, that was your asset. You pretty much fed yourself on them. So that was basically his business. You can take care. Just think. So Musa alayhi salam acted like in the role of a shepherd, from a prince to a shepherd for 10 years. And that was a perfect time for him, because while he was taking these goats and sheep out in the mountain, and that was a perfect time for him to ponder over, think about things. That was his training phase from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah wanted Musa alayhi salam to spend all this time alone thinking about the creations, about the things that he couldn't think when he was in the palace. So Musa alayhi salam at this time used this time very wisely. At the end of the 10th year, all of a sudden Musa alayhi salam started feeling homesick. He's getting he's getting reminded of Egypt. He is missing home. He's missing his mom. He's missing his siblings. I mean, all of a sudden, this thing is making him not feel easy in Madian. So one day, he goes to his wife and says, you know what? We should go back to Egypt. And she said, why? Aren't you happy here? He said, I'm happy. I have everything here. There's peace. We have everything here. But I am missing Egypt. I want to go back. In fact, we should leave tomorrow. He gathered all his belongings, his family, his whatever, goat, sheep, whatever he had, and he left for Egypt. Now, the problem is, when he left Egypt, he did not know the way. He was just traveling in one direction for 8 days. And this is the time when we didn't have GPS, so he could not figure out a way into Egypt. So he's going in some direction and he's telling his wife, looks like I'm lost. Looks like we are lost. I need to find a way out. But I don't know. I can't see anybody. It's all desert. But all of a sudden, in the mountainous regions as they entered, he said, oh my God, look over there. There is a light. I see a light. Why don't you all stay back and I will go? Looks like maybe there is a fire going on and maybe some people will be there. I will be able to go there, ask for directions from them, and I will be back with some fire for you guys because the nights are cold. And we don't have any means of putting a fire, like, fire camp kind of stuff. So he goes there looking for fire, but then he notices that there is a tree, and the tree has lots of lights coming out of it. And Musa alayhi salam is like, what kind of tree is this? I've never seen a tree that would lit like a torch. He is approaching the tree, and all of a sudden he hears a voice, Ya Musa, oh Moses, take off your slippers. Akhla'na alayk. You are in the blessed valley of Tuwa. And Musa alayhi salam is like, where's this voice coming from? Whose voice is this? And the voice comes and says, Inni an Allah. I am Allah. La ilaha illa ana fa'budni. There is no God to be worshipped but me, so worship me alone. And the voice kept saying to pray. Musa alayhi salam is shaking that Allah is speaking to me directly. That's why Musa alayhi salam is called Kalimullah, the one who had the privilege and honor of speaking to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala directly. So Musa alayhi salam comes closer, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to Musa, Musa, you have a job to do. Your job is to go to the Fir'aun, the Pharaoh of Egypt, and bring him to Islam and give him the message that he must free the children of Israel that he has enslaved wrongly, and he must accept Islam and become a Muslim. And Musa alayhi salam said, oh Allah, this is a very tough job. I need some means to convince him, some ways of convincing him. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, oh Musa, what are you holding in your hand? He said, I'm holding a stick. What do you use it for? Oh, I use it for bringing down the leaves from the tree so that my sheep can eat from it. And I use it as a protector. And when I get tired, I lean on it. And he's going on and on and on with his uses. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, let it go. Drop it. So Musa alayhi salam dropped it. The moment the stick touched the ground, it turned into a massive snake crawling. And Musa alayhi salam got scared because all of a sudden he's seeing this huge snake. And he started running away. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya Musa, La takhaf, do not be scared. Touch the snake and lift it up. He touched the snake and he lifted up. It turned back into a stick. Musa alayhi salam was like, wow, right? On your command of your brain, you can turn a stick to snake and a snake to a stick. That's a miracle. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Musa, I will give you one more miracle. Remember a little burn mark on your hand when you were a kid by touching the fire? Put that hand in your armpit and take it out. The Musa alayhi salam put that hand in his armpit and took it out, and the hand started glowing like moon. That mark started glowing like moon. And Musa alayhi salam was like, wow. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, these are my two signs, and I will give you a lot more, bigger signs than these. For now, take these two to convince the Pharaoh, the Pharaoh of Egypt, to accept Islam and to accept that you are the prophet of God, and let free the children of Israel. Musa alayhi salam is like, oh Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I have to go in and face Pharaoh and his mighty court. I cannot do this job alone. How about if I can have a helper? Can you make Harun, Aaron, his English name and Arabic is Harun. My brother Harun, can you make him also a prophet? So we as a team will work together and will enter the Pharaoh's court. See, Musa alayhi salam is teaching us that the siblings must work together like brothers and sisters. Don't fight among yourselves. Like work together and be each other's strength and power. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, oh Musa, I will grant your brother the status that you want, and he shall be your helper as you enter the court of Pharaoh. So we will stop here for today, and let's see